I ain't got no goals. I was born to stay in the hood.
Are you gonna stay in the hood for the rest of your life?
I might.
How you gonna make money?
The government gonna take care of me. All I gotta do is have 8 kids and I'm Gucci. Do you know how much food stamps I can get with 8 kids? The hood is the land of opportunity. I can get a chopped cheese, Chinese food, and Don Julio on the same block.
Yo, nah, we're done.
So basically the topic I want to talk about is institutionalization and kind of like how that relates to generalization. And I think how one of the biggest issues that we have in society nowadays is that we love to generalize people, and especially like when it comes to like, you know, racism, sex, obviously like we like to generalize too much. Like, and the reason I show you that video is a big issue is people will see that clip and then generalize like a majority of people based on that. And like my theory, like my thinking behind it is that most people won't interact. Like you will interact with thousands of people in your life, maybe. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But even if it's like 10,000 people, like that is such a small minority of people that live in the world with all unique different experiences, all unique different perspectives, like all different human consciousness. I can't speak, bro. I need to quit. Yeah, but like basically the point is like generalization is the biggest flaw in our modern day society. Well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest things we do in modern society, especially with things like TikTok and social media. Like you see someone hop online and make one of the most outlandish takes, and you see like it feels like so many people relate to this take.
Yeah.
But like you think them so many people, it's like
it's weird as well. Yeah, especially when you go into like these TikToks that you look in the comment section, everybody's got the same like they're saying this. It's the same rhetoric over and over again, and you realize. You think, oh, everybody thinks this way, but you're in just one tiny little niche on the internet, and the reality is so much broader than that. And you don't realize until you've like your For You page changes. Like mine, for example, I always have like I have multiple different like corners of the internet on my For You page, and when you look through the comments, everyone in one comment section is saying, yo, this guy's chopped, or yo, this guy's like. So this guy's like some nepo baby or something like that, and everybody thinks this way about that certain type of person. But then you step back from that video and like you look down your For You page, you see something that the same like type of video, and people will be thinking completely differently.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Deep, how many like Instagram or like TikTok or YouTubers that have over 1 million followers you just don't know about?
Yeah, that's insane.
Like you feel like 1 million's a big number, which it is. Don't get me wrong, but like. So many people have these followers and these influencers that you just don't hear anything about. And like, this is a question I want to have. So I feel like a big argument here sometimes is that, well, stereotypes do exist for a reason. But my reasoning is with that is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Essentially, we portray these ideas based off like one group narrative. I don't know, like a kind of like, I don't know, like idea we have of a group. Then we based it on the group itself. As a result, they kind of fulfill the prophecy. Do I make sense what I'm trying to say? Yeah,
stereotypes lead so many people to think that those things are objectively true about a certain group.
I think that's the point. It's like, for example, basic thing is, like, you know, like sociology, you always learn about it. It's like black British culture were treated as criminals, violent, blah, 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 blah. As a result, we end up becoming violent and treated like anti-criminals because we treated that from a young age, aka fulfilling our self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, that's what I kind of mean like that.
Yeah, and obviously, it's like other people treat them that way, but then they also treat themselves that way.
How do you say it? Would you explain?
Well, yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously. Yeah. If other people feel that way about the stereotype, they're not going to want to feel like there's any point in putting effort towards living alternatively.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
and
true.
True. You know, that's why they want to do that's why the self-fulfilling prophecy is self-fulfilling, because you're treated a certain way. You realize no matter how hard you try, you're always going to be looked at in that certain way.
Yeah.
Because these false stereotypes that generalize the whole population are affecting you as an individual. So why would you change? No one expects anything different. You know.
That is so true. And like on a smaller personal like level, like how do you feel sometimes? Or like. Do you ever feel like you've been prophesized before? I don't know. Prophesized feels like crazy, but like, you know, like, have you ever felt like you've been like, I don't know.
I don't feel like I've ever been pushed into a certain
stereotype.
Yeah, pushed into a stereotype, but I've definitely been like observed that way. Sometimes you notice it a lot when more often than not in certain areas you walk down the street and just because of the certain type of clothes you're wearing, people cross the street. it's a bit weird like that. Or like when I was
Yeah.
working at Haven, oh, maybe cut that out. When I was working at a certain hotel, the residents tend to not look me in the eyes for some reason and would like give me more than enough space in the hallways, that type of thing, like little things like that.
Yeah, but
they assume I'm gonna do something.
The thing is with that, like, is it? The thing is where we work, like where we don't. That's a very rich area. That's a very wealthy area. So, is it because of like our colour of skin, or is it because we don't act like in that kind of culture? Because things I do see lots of like different culture people work there, or like not work there, but go there on holidays with that, and they treat completely normally. But I think when it comes to like certain things, I always think it's less of a race issue or like a sexist issue. It's always more of a class issue, and it's a certain you have to act a certain way, like you have to be coded a certain way. And with race, it is slightly different. But I always think like you have to kind of be like the rich don't really care if you're black and white. They just want to see like if you're poor or you're rich, like are you in our class or not.
You know, that's an interesting thing, yeah. Because I had a conversation with my family recently, and I observed something like really interesting, and it was where I live now in Leicester Forest East is a lot different to where I lived.
You might come a bit closer to the mic.
Oh, okay. Where I live now in Leicester Forest East is a lot different to where I lived in Beaumont Leys. And when my parents were talking about, because I don't know what raised the conversation, but we were talking about like the process of moving in. And we were talking about our neighbours behind us actually. And it was because we were talking about council housing. I was talking about trying to move into like a house, get cheap housing. So we were talking about council housing. And my parents were explaining that all these new like development areas, like David Wilson homes and stuff like that, etc. I don't know any others, but David Wilson homes, you need to have at least some council housing in the estate. And whenever like they're trying to make sales or trying to like sell houses, they will always one selling point that they make is we can move you as like far away from council housing as possible. And we were talking about living near, because we have issues with our neighbours behind us, and that is where the council housing is in our estate. They live directly behind us, and the way that my parents were talking about the council estate residents was really like kind of close to how the stereotypical white person looks at the stereotypical black person. You know what I mean? It was a lot of, when we moved in here, we didn't want to live near them, or it's a lot quieter whenever they're out of town or something like that, etc., that type of stuff. They're really the rowdy folk. But it wasn't a race difference, it was a class difference. Because there were black and white people living in that like council area. So it just makes, I feel like that really highlights the point that it isn't really a race issue, it is definitely a class issue. Because in Beaumont Leys, when you knew your neighbour, it wasn't a bad thing. When you knew your neighbour, it was, they could provide services, or it was a community. When you get in class, you're expected to provide everything for yourself, so you no longer need that relationship with your neighbours. So you're very close-knit, and those relationships now are seen as disturbances, you know, because that's the difference in class. And because the council house have that community-esque feel, and we're living in an area where everyone should be providing for themselves, they're seen as like a distraction, they're seen as rowdy, they're seen as annoying. Yeah, I just found that a bit weird. I found that interesting.
No, definitely. And I think the biggest lie they've told us from the is that it's a race issue, it's a sex issue, it's this issue. And they like the media loves to generalize groups to represent, like paint a group out in a bad picture just because of a couple of individuals' actions. And like when you actually deep how smart that tactic is, the virus at the bottom. Actually, I'll insert a clip right now from this. Do you ever watch the movie Ants?
I haven't actually.
Oh, with the crickets and ants.
You recommend it?
No, not really. I can't really. It's a kid movie. But there's one scene right here, like if I'm playing it right now. It's just a good scene because it literally just defines society. Keep them divided at the bottom because one of them isn't strong. But as soon as we unite, like the world's cooked.
I have seen that.
Like
because there's 10 to 1 there's 10 ants to 1 cricket.
So like
and once they realise that, it's all over.
Exactly. So it's like it's so interesting how they divide us, like with things of like, you know, like race or like sexism, saying, black men are like this is why you should stay with them to keep your white family safe, or white people are like this, and it's like it kind of continues the cycle of like I think like I'll call it generation trauma on both sides.
Yeah, it plants the seed of like generalization, and then everybody kind of follows suit.
Yeah.
And it keeps those groups where they are
Yeah.
permanently.
And especially if you're someone who doesn't seem like that, the risk to reward of taking a step out of it and trying to like, break the society goal, it's not worth it. Because like who's the guy in Africa who's the politician now?
Ibrahim Traore.
Yeah, Ibrahim Traore.
Of Burkina Faso.
Yeah, Burkina Faso, yeah. Look at him, like, how many times has Denelli been assassinated already?
How many times?
I think it's like 19 times.
19?
They tried killing him 19 times.
Madness.
As soon as you try to start a revolution, bro, it's like deep how many places still profit off like Africa and like other countries like this. You know what I mean? It's just mental. And all they had to do was way back in the day say, oh, like these people and act like they're not human and say like, oh, these people are different to us. That blah 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 blah. Oh yeah,
look up the conflict between East and West Side Cameroon. Like that's some interesting.
Like guys, the easiest thing you can do right now, like if you ever want to get any knowledge, go on Google, like Google Gemini or like ChatGPT, and just ask it to give you a prompt, okay? Ask it to give you the most prompt saying become the most historical researcher ever and give me the most in-depth insight on this topic. When I did that, I'll put like a clip me doing this right now. Is sometimes it'll give you a very like deep insight topic onto like a thing, but sometimes it'll gather research and realize it's because it sometimes will gather research and like gather information that actually like they don't want to show. Because for example, I was like doing research into like times that of like police brutality, like stuff like that have kind of
surface in the news.
Yeah, it's surface in the news in the UK, and it was talking about like how this black woman, and ChatGPT was writing it, and halfway it said stopped, and said this goes against the terms of services.
Really?
Yeah, historical fact, evidence in news just said stop. Obviously take ChatGPT with a grain of salt. Obviously, you know, it's a good way to like find where to start information, and you delve into your topics yourself. I think nowadays with the access of like AI and stuff, like no one has no excuse for not being knowledgeable. Like you genuinely can just type in the prompt, it will give you information, Google the information, it takes you less than like 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to understand, or you have a general like idea of something.
I would say ignorance in today's day and age is more of like, it's on you if you don't really know about that stuff too much. You want to say anything to the calm?
But yeah, that's really it for today. I think that was kind of good discussion. Real Talk, episode number 2.
Institutionalization.
And generalization.
Nice.
Alright, cool. So I can pause that.
And scene, right?
Wait, can you do the and scene bit?